The world does not cater to intelligent people. It revolves around the lowest common denominator. And that's why most humans are easily manipulated sheeple who will put up with anything as long as they get their lard-fried burgers from a hole in the wall, free porn, and 2-day shipping. Curse of the High IQ dives into what it's like having your mind held hostage by boring idiots in the rat race of humanity. The cheese is in the description.
What's going on today, you stunning and brave corpse cushions? Haha, Terrence Popp, Redonkulous.com.
And returning from the fiery but peaceful protests at the all-ginger gangbang, I'm Toxic Male.
Bad Pop showed up today, and I'm in a surly mood because we have to talk about white privilege patient zero again. Wah. If you remember where our last episode left off, we are now moving into the 46 paper cuts of insanity. You better double prime, pour yourself a really stiff menagerie, or 2, or 3, and don't judge me. And I am drinking the perfect booze for this today. Butterface! Even the whole bottle, if I hammer the whole thing, won't dull the pain, but I'm gonna try. Yeah. So, we're gonna make like the sorority swim team, and we're just gonna dive right in.
Number 1, I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time.
Anyone, at any time, can do that. But if you're white and try to do that publicly, good fucking luck. I challenge you to go to any school in the United States and find a white pride group. You're gonna come up emptier than Piggy McIntosh's ring finger. Ha ha! Screen 5.
Number 2, I can avoid spending time with people whom I was trained to mistrust and who have learned to mistrust my kind or me.
If you keep saying the same thing over and over again, and all you do is add modifiers, we're gonna be here all day. And it's very ironic that this list has become the blueprint that trained 2 generations of our youth to hate each other based on race. But that's totally okay because, you know, you're an anti-racist feminist, right?
Isn't it hilarious how the people screaming the loudest about systemic oppression always turn out to be so evil? Even Hitler would be like, all right, screw this, I'm going back to painting, that's too much for me.
Number 3, if I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and in which I would want to live.
If you're talking about the mortgage practice called redlining, that ended almost 2 decades before this article was written. Just another example of leftists using examples from the past to turn people against each other today. But even if that weren't true, economics dictates, see what I did there? A bank will only approve you for what you can afford. I used to do that for a living. In fact, when you take that away from the equation, you get a housing bubble. Thanks, Bubba Bill.
Number 4, I can be reasonably sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me.
What the hell did you just say?
It doesn't matter what race, color, or creed you are, or what you have dangling between your legs. Assholes are everywhere! And they live in every neighborhood and they come in every shape and size.
Only someone who spent her entire life living off the bureaucratically extorted charity of other people while hiding in an academic echo chamber would have the ovaries to write something this clearly stupid.
Number 5, I can go shopping alone most of the time, fairly well assured that I will not be followed or harassed by store detectives.
So, let me get this straight. As a woman, you feel safe shopping alone? Did you run this by your scissor-kicking friends before you decided to write this down? Because in your haste to call everyone else racist, you just debunked a huge element of rapé culture. Winning! Oh.
Number 6, I can turn on the television or open to the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely and positively represented.
Wow! If only you had a looking glass that allowed you to see 20 years into the future, honey.
You're fucking a white male!
Apparently, this woman who wanted everyone else to feel like they're privileged lived in a bubble and didn't own a television. By this time, we had several very popular minority sitcoms on television. Just to name one, you got the Jeffersons. And within 2 years, you would have Family Matters and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which was a good show. All of them showed black culture in a very positive light. And, more important, they pushed the importance of family values. Sitcoms, they don't do that anymore. Space Ghost.
Number 7, when I am told about our national heritage or about civilization, I am shown that people of my color made it what it is.
And if you lived in Africa, you would see the exact same thing. Screen 5. To listen to these fucking idiot leftists talk, you would think that the United States was the only country on the face of the earth.
Which I hear is totally flat, by the way. Flatter than a pubescent gymnast who can't get her period. What? Peggy can't be the only one spewing nonsensical BS. She'll start to get sad. Ugh. Can you imagine this pickled avocado of a face actually crying?
Number 8, I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race.
Oh, that's right. We were never taught anything about the civil rights movement in school. There isn't a national holiday that's dedicated to one of the best black men who ever walked the planet. There's not a whole month celebrating their history. You, Miss McIntosh, are stupid, and you're praying everyone else is dumber than you. And based on the events in the last year alone, I might just have to agree with her here.
Number 9, if I want to, I can be pretty sure of finding a publisher for this piece on white privilege.
You didn't find a publisher. You started a propaganda movement. And in the process, corrupted the minds of 2 generations. And after electing a black president, they're all at each other's throats again. Well, thanks for that.
I don't know about you, but I can't think of anything less racist than brainwashing the youth of a post-racial America into hating each other based on skin color. 2 in the stunning, 1 in the brave. Oh, and by the way, the first American novel by a black author was published in 1859. And she was a woman.
Number 10, I can be fairly sure of having my voice heard in a group in which I am the only member of my race.
That is not a white privilege. It is a female privilege. I can walk into a room full of black dudes and they don't give a fuck who I am. They don't even pay attention, which is good in a way. But a woman with missile tits walks into the same room. All eyes are on her. And at that point, the only race in that room is turning the muffin top into a cupcake, huh? Screen 5.
Number 11, I can be casual about whether or not to listen to another woman's voice in a group in which she is the only member of her race.
That is one hell of a logical fallacy you're jerking off with there, Miss Piggy. I hope it's dishwasher safe.
Bottom line, honey, you spend all your time on college campuses. Men aren't listening to you. They're looking at the goodies. We are some dick-thinking motherfuckers all the way up to the age of 34, and that's a fact. And you ladies take advantage of that fact. That is your privilege.
Number 12, I can go into a bookshop and count on finding the writing of my race represented, into a supermarket and find the staple foods that fit with my cultural traditions, into a hairdresser's shop and find someone who can deal with my hair.
Welcome to the world of female solipsism. This upper middle class white bitch thinks everywhere she goes is like where she lives. And if you think this is actually true, I dare you to take a ride down 8 Mile. 5 minutes on 8 Mile, you're gonna see 4 things. Fried chicken, titty clubs, weave and weed shops. Okay, we're gonna have to go with a big fuck off.
Number 13, whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance that I am financially reliable.
This woman has no concept of reality. In fact, this is what privilege looks like. It is a privilege to lie through your goddamn teeth and have people believe you because of, I don't know, vagina.
Never underestimate the psychopathic capacity that leftists have for weaponizing imaginary oppression to make money.
When you are in the business to make money, it doesn't matter what color the client is because the cash is all green.
And now it's time for this week's installment of They Should Be Dead, brought to you by Uncle Nick, Diary of a Misanthrope.
Fatality.
This has been your weekly installment of They Should Be Dead. Frank Selby's novel Uncle Nick is available in paperback and ebook right now. Links are in the description.
Number 14, I could arrange to protect our young children most of the time from people who might not like them.
That's called being a parent, not that you would know that or anything. Screen 5. I can't imagine anyone fornicating with you on their worst day, let alone rearing a child with you every day. I have a 5-year backlog of booze, which was paid for by the fans out there. Thank you. But that is not enough booze to deal with a woman like this. I would rather lasso my testicles to a snowplow. Well, you know it's coming, so you're just like,
Number 15, I did not have to educate our children to be aware of systemic racism for their own daily physical protection.
systemic racism doesn't exist. Well, unless you're white. Screen 5. Ever hear of affirmative action? Peggy McIntosh wouldn't have a job without it.
That is so mean.
But when you say racism exists where it doesn't, you wind up creating it. Now, am I saying there's no such thing as a racist cop? You'd have to be a fucking idiot to believe that.
But you'd have to be an even bigger idiot to believe that one racist cop means the whole system is corrupt.
And as long as the left keeps making excuses for the 94% black on black homicide rate, not to mention 61% of black homicides are abortions, until those Black Lives Matter, Space Ghost is on.
16, I can be pretty sure that my children's teachers and employers will tolerate them if they fit school and workplace norms. My chief worries about them do not concern others' attitudes toward their race.
Newsflash for you, woman. You show up at school and you don't make any problems, the teachers will leave you alone. I can't say the same thing about the students because, kids are assholes. And I know this will come as a shock to a woman who's never worked a day in her life, but as long as you show up to work on time, do your job to standard, and don't make any waves, no one's gonna fuck with you.
Must be nice to earn a living making shit up. As a man and not a Democrat, I don't have that privilege.
17, I can talk with my mouth full and not have people put this down to my color.
Will the real racist here please stand up? That's what I thought. The only people who devote this much time and effort to racism are racists. And she still hasn't learned. She's still doing this and she's almost 90 now.
You would think that at some point in the past 30 years with the invention of the internet, Miss Piggy would have accidentally stumbled across the truth by now. It is unthinkable that no one has pulled her aside and said, hey, you know all this is complete BS and here's why. Which would mean that Piggy McIntosh knows she is lying and is deliberately spreading racism anyway. But there's no money to be made telling the truth, so here we are.
Damn it, he's right. Well said.
18, I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to the bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race.
I got 3 words for you, Peggy. White trash, redneck. A white dude from the South can't even open his mouth without somebody going, hey, how good is your cousin in bed?
Hey, Pop, how's your mama and your sister?
Well, they're both the same person. Sorry, Miss Piggy, stereotypes exist for a reason, and they don't just spring up out of the ether. They exist because there's a nugget of truth in every single one of them. But if you don't believe me, start your own stereotype based on bullshit and see how far it goes. Oh wait, you already did! Screen 5.
19, I can speak in public to a powerful male group without putting my race on trial.
Speaking of pulling shit out of your ass, Space Ghost.
20, I can do well in a challenging situation without being called a credit to my race.
You might have heard this shit in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but that doesn't happen anymore. And it wasn't happening in 1988 when you wrote this bullshit.
21, I am never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group.
You never asked for it, but you always fucking insist on it. Anyone who's spent 10 minutes watching C-SPAN has seen this bullshit. As a black man, or as a woman of color, who gives a fuck? The color of your skin does not strengthen the argument, especially when you're wronger than 2 boys fucking in church during mass.
22. I can remain oblivious to the language and customs of persons of color who constitute the world's majority without feeling in my culture any penalty for such oblivion.
Once again, Piggy McIntosh projects her own personal racism and echo chamber ignorance to the masses, desperate to hide away from the fact that she's an abysmal failure whose life's work is a lie that's caused nothing but misery, suffering, and death. And at the rate Pop's going over there, one hangover.
But I love how you admit the persons of color are the majority. I will be waiting for my affirmative action checks in the mail, Space Ghost.
23. I can criticize our government and talk about how much I fear its policies and behavior without being seen as a cultural outsider.
You used to be able to do that, but the last election happened. Now you're a cultural outsider if you think the president should actually be elected, instead of fortified by billionaire globalists.
24. I can be reasonably sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I will be facing a person of my race.
Once again, Miss Piggy, your neighborhood isn't every neighborhood. If I go down to 8 Mile and ask to speak to a manager, I can only hope he's off his smoke break, if you know what I mean.
25. If a traffic cop pulls me over, or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race.
But you can't be sure you weren't singled out because of your politics. And the guy who weaponized the IRS against his political enemies was black. Screen 5. Gee, it's like skin color has nothing to do with privilege. Money does. And if you have money and a vagina, you're basically invincible. You can murder people en masse and distribute classified information to the four winds and walk scot-free.
26. I can easily buy posters, postcards, picture books, greeting cards, dolls, toys, and children's magazines featuring people of my race.
Everyone can do that, and I guess I need another menagerie.
27. I can go home from most meetings of organizations I belong to, feeling somewhat tied in, rather than isolated, out of place, outnumbered, unheard, held at a distance, or feared.
All of that is 100% weapons-grade bullshit, or otherwise known as feelings. Reality doesn't give a flying fuck about your feelings, and neither do I. Girls, they go to frat parties, a lot of them pre-game, and they solicit getting trash compacted by 2 frat brothers on the 2nd floor. But the next day, they sober up, they regret it, they feel like they were rapade. When your goal is to crush an entire race and sex of people under your thumb, your feelings, they don't add up to half a hill of shit.
28. I can be pretty sure that an argument with a colleague of another race is more likely to jeopardize her chances for advancement than to jeopardize mine.
Let me get this straight. A white woman and a black woman walk into a bar. The white woman says, "You're oppressed." The black woman says, "No, I'm not. Get a life." And magically, the white woman gets promoted. Where in Bizarro Land are we now?
29. I can be fairly sure that if I argue for the promotion of a person of another race, or a program centering on race, this is not likely to cost me heavily within my present setting, even if my colleagues disagree with me.
Okay, go ahead and start a white pride group on campus and see how far you get. I don't know what kind of crack you're smoking, but even in 1988, white people were the only ones not allowed to do this shit. And if you pull this shit today, they'll try to put you in prison, get you fired, or possibly burn your house down. But it's a fiery but peaceful arson. Space Ghost.
30. If I declare there is a racial issue at hand, or there isn't a racial issue at hand, my race will lend me more credibility for either position than a person of color will have.
Bullshit! It didn't happen then, and it really doesn't happen now.
This was already complete hogwash when she wrote it in 1988. Now, in 2021, it's impossible for anyone with a brainstem to reconcile this horse shit. Unless they intend to weaponize it for personal gain.
There are no stats, facts, or studies that support any of this. The facts, stats, and studies disprove all of it. That's why the left pulls this my truth bullshit. It's nothing more than a fairy tale force field to protect you from reality.
31. I can choose to ignore developments in minority writing and minority activist programs, or disparage them, or learn from them, but in any case, I can find ways to be more or less protected from negative consequences of any of these choices.
Tell that to all the owners of the small businesses that had their shit burned down last year. Screen 5. And Tell that to all the prosecutors who dropped the charges against all of these burning, looting murderers.
32. My culture gives me little fear about ignoring the perspectives and powers of people of other races.
Only if your goal is to break people into smaller groups and then keep them fighting among themselves for welfare crumbs. We used to all just be Americans, and that was enough. Until Piggy McIntosh and leftist bigots just like her came along.
33. I am not made acutely aware that my shape, bearing, or body odor will be taken as a reflection of my race.
It's not, but it does mean you're one dirty mother fornicator. Just saying.
How many mental fuses have to blow for someone to chalk up our collective revulsion at the olfactory cocktail of morbidly obese swamp ass to racism?
Make friends with a bar of soap and take a shower once a day and you won't even have this problem. Teenage boys usually become great friends with that bar of soap, and it starts right around 13. Not that I would know that or anything.
34. I can worry about racism without being seen as self-interested or self-seeking.
Coming from the creator of imaginary privilege, I find this hilarious. Do you see the elephant right here? Oh, you don't, because you were conditioned not to. What do you mean the emperor has no clothes? What?
35. I can take a job with an affirmative action employer without having my coworkers on the job suspect that I got it because of my race.
Nope, you got it because of your vagina, and I don't have that privilege. I thought affirmative action was for minorities. Women are not. Meanwhile, after I graduated college, I applied to alphabet agencies for 10 years. And you know what I was told?
You're the wrong color and you have the wrong wedding tackle.
I was more than qualified. I just wasn't privileged enough.
36. If my day, week, or year is going badly, I need not ask of each negative episode or situation whether it has racial overtones.
Because if you find yourself asking that question, you're a racist. It just snowed 8 goddamn inches here. Can you imagine a black guy looking out his window and go, that's there because I'm black? How space goes.
37. I can be pretty sure of finding people who would be willing to talk with me and advise me about my next steps professionally.
Sorry, Popp here. Anyone can do that. It's called a career advisor. Every high school and college has one of these, and they don't care what color you are. Even the military has them, and they really don't care. You're just more meat for the grinder. Some people, they like dark meat. Others like white meat. It is what it is, Space Ghost. But I will say this. As a connoisseur of South American women, that dark meat, pretty juicy. You can't call me a racist because I'm an indiscriminate fucker, figuratively and literally.
38. I can think over many options, social, political, imaginative, or professional, without asking whether a person of my race would be accepted or allowed to do what I want to do.
Tell that to Candace Owens and Kanye West, Screen 5.
39. I can be late to a meeting without having the lateness reflect on my race.
But it will still reflect on you as a person. You're running on chick time. I did a whole video about that. Links in the description. And if you think CP time doesn't exist, you're a fucking liar.
40. I can choose public accommodation without fearing that people of my race cannot get in or will be mistreated in the places I have chosen.
What public accommodation are we talking about here? Be specific for once in your life. I guess specificity is too much to ask when you're just making shit up. This entire list is nothing but vague word salad. The only thing missing is the ranch dressing, and that's probably why she wrote this list. Screen 5. Because when you have a face like this, the only fucking you're gonna be doing is fucking over other people. When you're this ugly, you can't even pay for it anymore.
41. I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me.
As long as you're paying for it, what's working against you? Legal, medical help, brothels, baskets lowering from the ceiling. As long as you're paying for it, you get whatever you want.
42. I can arrange my activities so that I will never have to experience feelings of rejection owing to my race.
Tell that to the NBA and the NFL. Screen 5.
43. If I have low credibility as a leader, I can be sure that my race is not the problem.
When you're talking about credibility as a leader, race is the last thing on anyone's mind. Unless you're a shitty leader and you want to blame it on somebody else. Credibility as a leader has everything to do with ability and nothing to do with melanin. If you are an incompetent, cowardly piece of shit, no one's gonna listen to you, and you did it to yourself.
44. I can easily find academic courses and institutions that give attention only to people of my race.
Since when? Space Ghost. Yeah, right, because there's totally all-white colleges and all-white classes. Yeah, you're never gonna find that shit. But you know what you will find in abundance? You're gonna find woman-only scholarships, black-only scholarships. Hell, you're gonna find black woman-only scholarships as well. You know what you're not gonna find? White-only scholarships. Not here, not there, not anywhere. And on the same campus, you're gonna find black-only clubs, woman-only clubs, Asian-only clubs. The white-only club, well, they meet, in the woods with their bed sheets, they burn crosses and shit. Winning? Oh, hell no.
45. I can expect figurative language and imagery in all of the arts to testify to the experiences of my race.
Yeah, right, yeah, there are no black actors, or black directors, or black screenwriters, or black artists of any kind.
46. I can choose blemish cover or bandages in flesh color and have them more or less match my skin.
More or less? More like a lot less. Do you know anyone who hasn't been embalmed that's actually this color?
Hypothetically, you have a puncture wound, it's bleeding and you gotta put a Band-Aid on it. Do you really care what color the Band-Aid is? I'm just asking for a friend. Apparently, the dude who invented the flesh-colored Band-Aids and Miss Macintosh, they're friends because clearly they haven't talked to any other people. They've been watching reality on a small black and white television. The rest of it, they're just guessing. And that's the only thing that could possibly explain this list of utter bullshit. There is not one thing on this entire list that has a shred of credibility. She put up the shields and said, you know what? I cross-reference this with my people of color. And I'm gonna say this right now. Even that never happened. No one with a shred of self-respect would be this woman's token black. Peggy McIntosh might be the most racist person on the planet, and that says a lot. This list has destroyed the minds and lives of 2 generations of our youth. And now they're both at each other's throats and burning down parts of cities because of, I don't know, feelings? For the so-called party of science, I'm not really seeing a lot of science here.
Perhaps before you look down on people who didn't waste their time and money at one of your liberal indoctrination centers of higher education, make sure you've actually learned something that can't be disproven with a smartphone while I'm taking a shit.
With that being said, 2 fucking menageries deep, I hope we're all drunk enough to pretend that this never happened. If you want to help me reload some of the bottles we went through on this show, which were 2, go to redonkulous.com/donate and send us a couple bucks, and we appreciate it. And don't forget, gentlemen, take a little bit of time to check your privilege every single day. And since I completely just opened up your schedule, I'm done with you. Go away.
I'll have Toxic Male tell the story about how when I worked at Blockbuster, the biggest thief we had was a 6'2" white dude with a man bun and an attitude. We had a fucking store meeting about this guy.
Yeah.
Because he would sit in his freaking panel van in the parking lot for like a half an hour before he finally came inside to the point where we knew his car. And he was like in there like making lists about what came out or some shit. Like we would see him checking on on boards and stuff. And then he would come in and pocket a whole bunch of shit and leave. It got to the point where like every time he would come in, I would just be like, hold my beer. And he'd be right here and I'd be like, can I help you? You like some popcorn with that stolen merchandise?